So, in the previous session, see, we have discussed about this state and path variable, and in relation to explain this difference of path variable, we have constructed the process path, like this is initial state, this is final state, and we have constructed these three different processes. Right. Now, question is how we can trace the path or trace the process path. Definitely, we have to take measurements at different points, right. So, the answer is we have to take measurements of primary state variables, pressure, temperature, right. Now, you see when you can take a measurement, we can measure if and only if the system is in equilibrium with the surrounding. System is in equilibrium, right. So, you have to understand this, but here comes a contradiction, like you see we do this experiment frequently. We have a water bath and we have a thermocouple inserted in it, and there is a heater, right. So, we switch on the heater and switch on this thermocouple circuit, and we go on recording the temperature. So, the system, which is the water bath, is not in equilibrium with the surrounding, but still we are taking the measurement. So, how come it is possible? And here we are writing that we can measure if and only if the system is in equilibrium. The thing is that we there consider the time scale for the change of this process, right, over a duration of say 5 seconds maybe, or maybe 30 seconds, the system temperature is changing by 1 degree, right, let us say. Whereas, the thermocouple, to process a change in the input, the respective time for the thermocouple may be in the order of millisecond, right. Within millisecond, it detects the temperature change and gives you the display. Okay? So, over that millisecond span, actually we are assuming the system is in pseudo equilibrium, right. And that is the logic or the reason by which we can say that okay, the thermocouple is going to give me the dynamic state of that system, the dynamic thermal state of the system, how it is evolving with time because of the heating. And this is the idea, this is a pseudo equilibrium, this is an imposition of the pseudo equilibrium idea, where by virtue of which we can actually justify the measurement. But truly we can take the measurement of a system's canonical variable or primary variable if and only if the system is in equilibrium with the surrounding. So, before we go into that process, that when it will be in equilibrium, under what condition it will be in equilibrium, and what type of process it will be, first let us understand what do we mean by thermodynamic equilibrium. So, the next question, what is thermodynamic equilibrium? So, equilibrium means here no change of state, neither there is any tendency of change. So, it is not only that there is no change of the system is in a static condition, right, but neither there is no driving force, right, which is actually leading the change. There is no, the driving force will be also 0. All driving forces must vanish. That means there will be no tendency for the system to change its state. Okay? So, the system is in equilibrium, and under this condition we can take the measurement. So, equilibrium is a word denoting static condition, the absence of change. In thermodynamics, it is taken to mean not only the absence of change, but the absence of any tendency towards the change of macroscopic scale. Definitely its microscopic states are changing, but here we are doing classical thermodynamics. So, macroscopically if no change is being visualized, so definitely we consider the system, or there is any tendency of the change. So, we consider the system is in equilibrium with the surrounding, right. Now, for thermodynamic equilibrium in gross sense is a collective of 3 individual equilibrium present simultaneously. These are mechanical, thermal and chemical equilibrium. So, thermodynamic equilibrium indicates a simultaneous presence of mechanical plus thermal plus chemical equilibrium, right. So, what is mechanical equilibrium? Number 1, so you see the condition of mechanical equilibrium we are going to discuss. As you all know, there will be no unbalanced force, and additionally there will be no unbalanced moment at the same time, right. So, condition sum of Fi I equal to 1 to n must be a null vector, then so this is the force equilibrium, there is no resultant force, and here the forces, you see the forces they produce certain moment, and we can calculate the respective moment caused by the force as Ri cross Fi with respect to certain axis, right. And additionally there are certain inherent moment present in the system, like it is a assembly where a shaft is connected, right. So, the shaft here, the force is not primary, but the moment or the torque it is giving in the system, that is primary or fundamental. So, these are inherent moment present in the system, which we have represented as Cj, and there may be m numbers of this moment without any root force present in that system, and the sum of those moments, inherent moments, plus the moments produced by the forces must be equal to a null vector. So, these two conditions, simultaneous existence of these two conditions give rise to the mechanical equilibrium. So, next is thermal equilibrium. So, here the condition of thermal equilibrium, the system's thermal state must be homogeneous. That means there is no temperature gradient present in that system, such that heat is flowing from one part to another part, that is prohibited. Okay? And additionally, that uniform temperature must be same as that of the temperature of the surrounding, right. So, T system, first condition we can write that grad T system is equal to null vector and T system is equal to T surrounding. So, under this condition there will be no heat flow internal or external to the system. And lastly, the chemical equilibrium. No mass transfer. What is chemical equilibrium? No mass transfer, neither there is any reaction. Right. And that can be, actually we will prove it later when we go for solution thermodynamics. The condition of chemical equilibrium can be quantified in terms of chemical potential of component species, individual component species in individual phases. So, just here I am writing it. Let us say there are I number of species I equal to 1 to n, and there are alpha, beta, gamma, these are the phases. Okay. So, mu I alpha is equal to mu I beta is equal to mu I gamma, and so on for all I equal to 1 to n is the condition of chemical equilibrium. So, all chemical potential of individual component species in all the phases must be same for all component species. So, that is the condition for this chemical equilibrium, right. So, in relation to this phase and components, let us again revisit this Gibbs phase rule once again. Before we start discussing about the process or the details regarding tracing the path of a process, right. So, let us again revisit this Gibbs phase rule. What it states? It states the degrees of freedom in a system C minus P plus 2 minus R. R is some special condition like azeotrope formation, reaction equilibrium, etc. Right. So, you see, let's have an example. Two component organic dispersion in brine in equilibrium with vapor phase. So, what is the degrees of freedom? So, you see the number of components, two organic components plus sodium chloride, brine, and brine is basically we consider it to be sodium chloride and water, right, plus 1. So, number of components is 4, number of phases, organic dispersion. So, organic phase will be a liquid phase, water or the brine will be another liquid phase, right. So, the organic may be having some limited miscibility in water, water may have limited miscibility in the organics. So, additionally we have a vapor phase. So, in the two phases in liquid, right, and one in vapor. So, the total number of phases is 3. And we have no additional restrictions or special condition here. So, degrees of freedom F is equal to 4 minus 3 plus 2 is equal to 3, correct. If I state here, if I state only the two component organic is in equilibrium with brine, there is no vapor phase. So, actually just two component organic liquid mixture in equilibrium with brine, right, no vapor phase. Under this condition, again the number of components is 2 plus 1 equal to 4, number of phases equal to 2, right. However, F will be 4 minus this 2 plus 1 only. Why 1? Because the pressure has got insignificant role to play in liquid system. right? If there is no vapor, because liquid is highly incompressible state of matter. So, pressure has got insignificant role to play. It is not an independent variable which is influencing the property of that system. So, generally we should drop pressure. So, 4 minus 2 plus 1, that is again 3. Right. Another example, you see. Thermal degradation of calcium carbonate, right, in open space or in open container. So, CaCO3 is a reaction CaO plus CO2, no equilibrium, right? It is devoid of any special condition. So, number of components 1 plus 2, this and 3. Will definitely not consider air and all. These 3 number of components. Number of phases 1 and solid phase and another gas phase, but actually that is wrong. Calcium carbonate and calcium oxide are 2 different solid phases. So, the number of phases will be 1 plus 1 plus 1, 3, right? And definitely as there is gas, so pressure is important. So, degrees of freedom F will be equal to 3 minus 3 plus 2 equal to 2. So, you have to be very, very careful specifically in understanding or recognizing the phases, right? Solid means, does not mean it is only a one phase, okay? There may be 2 phases, that you have to recognize. And if it is exclusively liquid and solid, then pressure you should drop. So, these are the 2 thumb rule in this calculating the degrees of freedom according to Gibbs phase rule, okay? So, if everything fails, if you are unable to justify, right, then definitely what you can do, you go back to the basics, like degrees of number of variables minus number of equations. By this you can cross check. So, we have got the Gibbs phase rule. We will solve more problems. I will give an assignment and this condition of thermodynamic equilibrium that we have discussed, right. So, with that, now let us proceed under what condition we can trace the graph for executed by a process. Okay? And here comes the concept of reversible process. See, whatever thermodynamics we are going to learn or the classical thermodynamics is basically here it is a reversible thermodynamics. Irreversible thermodynamics we will just compare its performance of some irreversible process with that of analogous reversible process with fixed initial and final state, right, through empirical parameters like efficiency. Okay. Just like in radiation we have seen that we cannot in toto introduce some theoretical framework for gray body. We have to go by the black body, which is a pure theoretical concept, idealized concept, and in there we have introduced this emissivity. This is an empirical factor which is to be calculated, and emissivity, through emissivity we actually gauge the behavior or describe the behavior of a non-black gray objects, right. So, similarly here we will see that here we have to go by introducing something called efficiency. Anyway, so first let us have to introduce this reversible process. Let us have a normal irreversible process. See, I have the same easy system of piston cylinder assembly, right. So, would you can have let us say I have a mass capital M and another mass small m, right. So, this small m is equivalent or exerting equivalent pressure as latch, as corresponding latch system. Like here we do not have any latch, but we have an additional dead weight, right, and small m is that additional dead weight. We have the state 1, P1, V1 and T1, right. Now we remove the small m. We simply remove the mass small m. What will happen? Immediately there will be an unbalanced pressure, right. The pressure of the gas, which is the system, will be higher than the opposing pressure. So, the gas will expand and will equilibrate with the opposing pressure going to a state 2, right here. So, only we have capital M. Okay. So, the state here P2, V2 and T2. So, this is state 2. See, this was in equilibrium if there is no heat transfer, right. Mechanically this was in equilibrium state, and finally it is again attaining another equilibrium state. So, if I want to draw the process curve, we will measurably fail, because we cannot, this process is so fast that we cannot trace this intermediate pressure and temperature. So, what we can do? We can simply in the phase space we will write state 1 and we will identify state 2, because only at these 2 points we can take the measurements. Okay. So, you cannot trace the process path. What we can do? We can tentatively get to that, okay, dotted line may be used to represent the tentative process path. So, this is my process path, and this process where the driving force is finite, that means the system is not attaining any intermediate equilibrium. These are irreversible processes. Right. Now, we have to perform a thought experiment by which we can actually go for a condition where we can trace the graph, right. So, what we can do? Here again state 1. However, what we have done? This is M. We will discretize this block into some finite number of small blocks, right. Each of mass blocks or small blocks, each of mass delta m, right, such that delta m into n is equal to m. This n represents the number of blocks. So, definitely all these blocks collectively will exert the same pressure on the gas, and the gas we can keep it in the same state P1, V1 and T1. So, this is state 1. Right. Now, we go on removing the block one by one and allowing enough time for the system to settle in an intermediate equilibrium. That means, if I remove one block, then there will be some intermediate position, right. N minus 1 blocks, and here the dead weight m. So it will be having a pressure P1 prime, volume V1 prime, temperature T1 prime. So in this way, finally, we go to the state 2, where there is only this dead-weight m, and definitely the system will attain the same final state. So this is state 2. Right. So you see, as we are removing the blocks one by one, we actually are generating some intermediate points where the system is in equilibrium with the surrounding, right. So even though we cannot trace the entire graph, we can actually represent some of the points. This is 2, this is 1, some of the points. So again we can draw a tentative line. So again we can draw a tentative line, but here the line drawing is much more easy than here. Here this one can justify that, okay, or one can argue rather, why not this or why not this? But here they cannot do that. However, in a strict mathematical sense, we can say that, okay, you are saying the process is like this, but I am saying the process is like this. Now prove me wrong. You can't do that. There is no alternative justification that the process within this scope of experiment, you cannot actually counter argue that process is not like this, process is like this, right. However, we are able to generate some of the intermediate points, and this type of process which is approaching towards the full tracing of the curve, it's called quasi-static process. Right, where we can trace some of the or locate some of the intermediate points because they were in equilibrium with the surrounding. So this is 1 irreversible, this is 2, and here we don't do anything else but consider a limiting situation where n tends to infinity, delta m tends to 0. However, delta m into n is equal to m, which is finite. Right. Now if I think that, okay, these points, these blocks, individual small blocks are reduced to points of insignificant masses, right. So if I remove, think of it theoretically, it's a thought experiment. If I go on removing one by one, the system will infinitesimally, it will move towards the final state in each removal of a single block, a single point, right. So we'll get infinite number of intermediate points, and we can say that this is a continuous curve between 1 and 2. So this is a reversible process. Right? So reversible process, how we can define it? Reversible process is one where everywhere throughout the process it will be in equilibrium with the surrounding. It will be in thermodynamic equilibrium. So definitely there is infinitesimally small driving force in each step which tends to 0, and that's why it is satisfying the condition of equilibrium. Okay. So you see, this is an ideal process or idealization. Now once it is idealized, we have got certain advantages. What are the advantages? For a reversible process, you see that in general W is P opposing dV, right? Now if it is reversible, everywhere the system is in equilibrium with the surrounding, so mechanical equilibrium will be there. and obviously P opposing everywhere will be equal to P, and we can write del W reversible is equal to P dV. So the equation del W equal to P dV is only valid for reversible processes, not for irreversible processes. And for irreversible process, P opposing go on changing. Here it is constant. Here it is constant, so we can calculate. But in general, for any industrial system, this P opposing go on changing, so it's impossible to calculate actually the irreversible work in general or in universally, right? So you see that reversible process has got another characteristics which are described with diagram in the handout. I am not going into the detail. What is that? The reversible process, you can stop at any intermediate point and can trace back to that original state, right? This state. Say this is 1, this is 2. You can stop here and go on reloading those points and go back to this step 1, right? And what is more important, that surrounding will also reach to the respective equilibrium state if the process is reversible. That means, you see, when you are thinking of an irreversible process, you can stop the process intermittently by a sudden force, right? You can stop the process intermittently. You can go back to the state 1, but surrounding will never return to the respective equilibrium state, that is 1 prime. Say here the surrounding was in equilibrium, the state was 1 prime, here the surrounding was in equilibrium, the state was 2 prime. So you stop the process here and trace back the curve, the surrounding now will attain a new equilibrium point, that is 1 double prime, right, for irreversible processes. However, if it is a reversible process, if here the surrounding is in equilibrium and the state was 1 prime, everywhere the surrounding was in equilibrium. So this is the point where you stop the process, you move back, you regain 1, again the surrounding will reach the state 1 prime, right. But here for irreversible it was different. So that has been with a diagram has been explained, that is figure 5 in page number 10 of my handout. So additionally, what is very important to note, reversible processes are the most efficient process in terms of, see, here in thermodynamics we can think from this engineering perspective, we can think there are 2 types of processes. First, where we intentionally change the state of the system in order to produce some work, right? That is a work producing process. Or second, where we give work to the system in order to change or in order to bring certain change in the state. Now the first analog, real life analogy is basically a turbine, where the steam actually expands from high pressure to low pressure and high temperature to low temperature, producing work. And alternatively you think it's a compressor or a pump, where we give work to the device in order to bring a certain change, in order to bring a high pressure state of that incoming liquid or gas. Okay. So in both cases the reversible processes are efficient. Here with this diagram, these 3 only, we will try to calculate what are the reversible and irreversible works, right, for piston cylinder assembly. See, here it's an easy system, so we can calculate this W irreversible. Let's say it is a work producing process, right. So this type, whatever we have described here, from high pressure it's expanding to low pressure. So work, they're all, this and this are work producing steps or work producing process. So W irreversible, del W irreversible, we know that it is P opposing dV. Now for irreversible process, whatever we have described, see, again let me draw this, PV, state 1, state 2, tentative process card, definitely it is tentative for representation simply. So this is P1, this is V1, this is P2, this is P2. Now we haven't changed here the opposing pressure because it was the dead weight capital M, right? And the opposing pressure here, P opposing, was capital M into G divided by A, which is same as P2. This is basically P opposing. Why? Because finally in the state 2 system equilibrates with the opposing pressure, right? So P opposing del W irreversible, P opposing equal to P2 into dV. So W irreversible, we integrate as P2 into V2 minus V1. So it is this area, right? Now if it is a reversible process, we have the curve P1, V1, V2 and P2. So del W reversible equal to P dV, right? So W reversible integral 1 to 2 or integral rather from V1 to V2 P dV. So which is the area under the curve, or rather let me put dotted sign, dot, right? So you see that this dot area is greater than the hatch area, right? So W reversible for work producing step, it's producing higher amount of work than the irreversible process, and that's, though it is specific system, but for every system we can justify that this is true. Reversible work is always higher than the irreversible work for a work producing process, and to account for it we define irreversible efficiency, the empirical parameter. What is that? It's defined as W irreversible divided by W reversible, and it is always less than 1, right? So that's about the work producing process. Now if I think of a process which consumes work, let's think of a process which consumes work, right? Here one specific point I would like to mention. Here you see initial and final state are same for both processes. So this is the input, right? Theoretically you can think the change of state is the input, work is the output, correct? So more efficient will be that process which produces more work, because the input, which is the change of state, that is fixed. Here again work consuming process, right? Let's say it is irreversible, PV. Initially it was here and finally we compress it to the state 2. Just the reverse process. Initially it was at state 1 only the dead weight capital M. Now we load it with another dead weight small m. So immediately it changes its state and equilibrate with the total opposing pressure, right? So what is the opposing pressure? This P2, which will be the opposing pressure. This is V2, this is V1, this is P1. Because now the system executes a process against the opposing pressure. Opposing pressure was initially higher, right? Because it is exerted by capital M and small m of the dead weight, right? So it compresses, so naturally its pressure increases and finally it equilibrates with the opposing pressure. So this opposing pressure theoretically, you see, it is m plus small m whole bracket into G divided by A, right, as per our diagram whatever I have drawn. So W irreversible here, its P opposing into dV. So W irreversible, it's basically P2 into V2 minus V1, or negative of P2 V1 minus P2. Definitely the work will be negative because here we are consuming work. So what is the amount? This. So mod of W irreversible is equal to this hatched area. Now think of a reversible process. Compression, work consuming state. This is P2, this is V2, this is P1, this is V1, right? So W reversible equal to PdV. So del W reversible equal to PdV. So W reversible integral from V1 to V2 PdV, right? So it will be the area under the curve with a negative sign, because integral we can change it to minus of V1 or V2 to V1 PdV. So it is minus of this hatched area, this dotted area, right? So mod of W reversible equal to this dotted area. So you see, to bring this same change of state, we require higher amount of work in irreversible process and lower work in reversible process. So here work is the input. So less input, same output. Definitely that is the more efficient process. So here irreversible efficiency, eta will be defined as mod of W irreversible divided by mod of W reversible. Sorry, reversible divided by irreversible. But basically even if we remove this mod sign, it will be same because the minus sign will cancel out, right? And again it is less than 1. So that's the idea of reversible process as the most efficient process, and the concept of irreversible efficiency, whatever we have introduced, right? So that's the justification and discussion regarding, preliminary discussion regarding work. Okay? So to calculate the work primarily, right, if we don't know, primarily we will calculate the the reversible work between the given change of state, and next by knowing the irreversible efficiency we can calculate the irreversible work being produced by the system or being consumed by the system if it is secondly a work consuming state. So next we will go for calculating heat, right. So you see again it is necessary to revisit what is heat capacity, right, or specific heat. Okay. Now you see we will write that heat capacity C is del Q dt, right, it is del Q dt. Like we can think of this unit mass of that system, right, then it will become specific heat, otherwise it will remain as heat capacity. So heat capacity is basically mass into specific heat. However, there is a point. See, you are initially here with temperature T. You are changing the state to temperature T plus dt, right, of that material. Now you can proceed by path 1, path 2, path 3. There are infinitely many paths possible. So this heat capacity must be associated, in general, must be associated to a path specifying parameter. So that's why we write it as Cx and dqx. X is path specifier, right, which remains constant, x remains constant along that specific path. So it is a path specifier. Now you see that we can define as many x as we can think of, right? Many x. So, however, we will not go by redundant set of this heat capacity. Instead, we will actually go by the respective degrees of freedom of a pure homogeneous system. If we try to initiate this discussion with homogeneous system, then definitely x, we may vary x consistent with the degrees of freedom of pure homogeneous system. What is the degrees of freedom? 2. Now we cannot write Ct, right? X can never be T because T has been already used in this definition of specific heat or heat capacity. So either you can go by constant pressure path or you can go by constant volume path, and that's why x either P or x equal to V. So we have this Cp del Qp dt Cv del Qv dt, right? Now you see that we have del Q is equal to du plus del W, right? Reversible process we will think of. So del Q is equal to du plus PdV, correct? So for constant, here it's pressure, what you can write here? Constant pressure process. Here comes the importance of enthalpy. You see, dH, previously we have discussed just in the last page of the previous session, that this is du plus PdV plus VdP. So for reversible process, that is del Q plus VdP, right? So del Q is equal to dH minus VdP. So we use it here. So del Qp is equal to dH minus VdP, and that is 0. Okay. So del Qp equal to dH. Now again, we have to finally justify this in terms of the Cp. We have to express it. Now H, it's a state variable, must be a function of additional two primary state variables. So dH will by chain rule del H del T at constant P dt plus del H del P at constant T dt. Okay. So del Qp equal to dH is simply del H del T at constant P dt as dP equal to 0 for constant pressure process. So Cp, which is del Qp dt, is equal to del H del T at constant P. So we have reduced the definition of Cp as del H del T at constant P, correct? Next on this side, you see again for reversible process, del Q is equal to du plus PdV. So del Qv is equal to du, right? Again here 2 degrees of freedom. So we think It's a temperature and volume. Why we will discuss. Why not this is temperature and pressure and this is temperature and volume. So du is equal to del u del t at constant v dt plus del u del v at constant t dv. So del qv is equal to del u del t at constant v dt, right, as dv equal to 0. So Cv del qv dt is equal to del u del t at constant v. So Cv finally becomes del u del t at constant v. So you see that if I would have chosen this is a temperature and volume, right, function of temperature and volume. So I will get del H, here this is constant V, and this will be del H del V at constant T dV, but we cannot set it equal to 0 because this is a constant pressure process. And whereas here we cannot set, if we would have considered this to be P, then this will be P, this will be P, right, this will be at constant P, and there will be complicated mathematical expression, and finally again we have to reduce P in terms of V. So definitely this would have resulted. So as we know this, we have considered enthalpy as a function of temperature and pressure because to justify this specific heat definition, and here internal energy to a function of temperature and volume. So finally you see, once we have defined Cp and Cv, we can have a route to calculate dH. dH will be equal to, as by chain rule, for a pure homogeneous system, this plus, so dH becomes now Cp dt plus del H del P at constant T dP, and there is one relation, general relation, and du is equal to del u del t at constant P or constant V dt plus del u del V at constant T dV. So here du is equal to Cv dt plus del u del V at constant T dV. Right. Now you see, before kinetic theory, we had something called Mayer's hypothesis, probably you have studied it in school days, which states internal energy for ideal gas is a function of temperature only. Nowadays we can justify it, definitely after kinetic theory was proposed, we can justify it from this relation of kinetic theory, which states that capital U is equal to 3 by 2 RT for ideal gas, right. So it's a function of temperature only. So this del U del V at constant T for ideal gas is del H del P at constant T for ideal gas must be equal to 0, right. As U is a function of T, H, which is U plus PV for ideal gas, and PV ideal gas is equal to RT. So this is also a function of T. So del H del P, so del H del P at constant T, that's also equal to 0. So these two equations for ideal gas or ideal fluid rather in general, right, we can write dHIg is equal to CPIg dt and duIg is equal to CVIg dt, right. It's this simplification of these two equations. However, for non-ideal gases or non-ideal fluids, these two parts will not be equal to 0 and we have to account for them separately. Here just a great question of 2007 of 1 mark probably, I do not remember. See, a state of an ideal gas is changed from T1 P1 to T2 P2, right, under constant volume process. To calculate the enthalpy delta H, all the following properties or variables are required. Delta H is a function of what? What are the options? CV P1 P2, CP T1 T2, CP T1 T2 P1 P2, CV P1 P2 T1 T2. So definitely the correct answer will be this. Why? So no matter whether it is a constant volume or variable volume process, we know universally that dH is equal to Cpij dt. So delta H will be equal to Cp into delta T, no matter whether it is for ideal gas, no matter whether it is constant volume, variable volume, constant pressure, anything, right? So we have delta H equal to Cp dt, so option is B. Another question, just these are the basics. It said a perfectly insulated cylinder of volume, total volume 0.6 meter cube is initially divided into two parts by a thin frictionless piston. Here this part has got a volume of this, right, as shown in the figure. The smaller part of volume 0.2 meter cube has an ideal gas, pressure 6 bar, pressure and 100 degrees Celsius its temperature. The other part is evacuated. So here we have vacuum. At certain time t, there is a stopper here. The stopper is removed and the gas is allowed to expand, right, to the other end, the final temperature. So you have to calculate the final temperature. Now you see definitely here the Q for this overall system is 0 because there is no statement regarding or above perfectly insulated. So Q is equal to 0, right. So Q is equal to 0, delta U plus W must be equal to 0, right. Now W is equal to P opposing into delta V, and delta V is basically this final volume 0.6 minus 0.2. However, what is the opposing pressure here? 0. So work is 0. So delta U is 0, and for ideal gas this is Cp Cv into delta T. So delta T will be equal to 0. So the temperature will be same as 100 degrees Celsius. So that's the answer. Okay. So in the next session, we are going to discuss initially about the standard heat of reaction, right, because it's associated to enthalpy, and the work and heat interaction terms for different standard processes like this isochoric, isobaric, adiabatic and polytropic, right. So that will be the end of the first laws discussion, which we are going to complete in the next session. Thank you.